Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are featuring the new Hamilton Jazzmaster Open Heart Midnight Blue. Now, I have reviewed a Open Heart before, about a year ago, but what they've done now is increase the size, which is quite surprising actually. Lots of companies are getting smaller, but they're actually going larger on this one. So it's a 42mm case size instead of 40. But what they're also doing is a 36mm case size. They call it a ladies watch, but to be fair, I think a lot of guys would prefer the 36mm, especially as this is all dial. You know, it's one of these where it does look a lot bigger than what it would if it was, say, a dive. You know, if it was a diver's watch, you'd have a big chunky bezel on there, and it would be a lot smaller. So it does have a very, very large dial on this. But before I get too far into a review, I've got to say a massive thank you to the team over at First Class Watches of Kenilworth for allowing me to review this piece. So many cool, interesting brands. Lots of different watches, and they're always on the lookout for new brands to represent as well. So if you're in the Midlands area, strongly recommend going along, having a look at the shop. If you're a bit further afield, well, don't worry, I'll leave a link in the description below and at the bottom of the page now. All I ask is that you do mention the channel if you contact them. So anyway, as mentioned before, it's 42mm. It has a thickness of 11.7mm, a lug-to-lug of 49mm, and the strap size on this is 22mm. Now, as I've said, this is a midnight blue. There is also a green model available as well, but I think the blue does look, is the one really. One thing they've added on this dial is the small speckles on there, which actually looks like, obviously they look like stars in the midnight sky, but because every so often you get some which, shine a bit more than others, it gives that illusion of depth. And I do quite like it for that. If you catch it all on one side, you just see them all matte. But every so often you can just see it. You get those certain ones which light up, kind of around here and all that. And it gives that impression, I say, of depth. And it is quite nicely done, to be fair. Then you have these they're actually like a gilt finish on the hands and indices there. Normally I'm not such a big fan of this, but on this model, it you don't notice it so much. You do have lume as well on the hour markers and the hands. And to be fair, it's okay, but it's not one for the lume junkies because let's face it, it's not a dive watch. I like the applied Hamilton logo up there with Hamilton automatic and just made in Swiss down there. So it's quite tidy really. The only thing I would say is obviously with these cutouts, you can see the balance here, and it's actually quite nice because when you zoom in, you can actually see it's got a metal escapement down there, so that's always good to see. So you've got that there, you can see a bit of a motion works here, and you can see the intermediate wheel here. I would be intrigued if you were to remove more of this, have they pelaged the whole lot there, or are they simply just doing the bits you can see to keep the cost down? I personally would like to have seen maybe just keep this section here, actually as a dial, and maybe get rid of, all this section. And all you have to do then is just keep this outer section here with the hour and minute markers, and that would make it a lot easier to read the time. Because on many skeletonized models, sometimes it is awkward to read the time at a glance. But yeah, horses for courses. I don't know if there's any symbolism to why they've gone this kind of weird cutouts here. It does seem quite unusual but very deliberate, so I would be interested if anyone actually knows why they do that. So on top of that, we have a lovely sapphire dome crystal. There's not much AR on there, to be fair, but that is something with Hamilton for some reason. I don't know why. They seem very reluctant on the AR, but if you haven't got AR on there, I guess you can't scratch the AR, so that's one good thing about it anyway. Next, we have a fixed bezel on there. The actual case of the watch, I think they've done quite a nice job on this because they've polished all the centre there. You've got the vertical brushwork going on there. And then you have this lovely, just nice chamfer, polished chamfer going there, and the straight line grain. And it's got a good curve to it, to be fair. It's got a decent curve to it. And as we come around this side, we have a signed crown. There is no screw down crown, so it goes straight into hand wind. And there's no ghost date, it just comes straight out to hacking. It's quite interesting because when you zoom right in, I can actually see the setting lever and the pin coming off there for actually what is required for a date on there. And because this, normally would be a dated version, the distance between two holes is quite great. So as you pull it out, you can almost see what I mean. That hasn't got into hack. It's not actually a ghost date. It just there clicks. It's just quite a long distance from one point to the other. So that's why it can give the illusion of a ghost date, but it's not actually there. It's like there, I've pulled it out, but it's just got longer to travel between 2 points. But there is technically no ghost date on there. As we flip it around, we've got the view of the H10 movement there. They get 80 hours of power reserve out of this one. I put it on the time grapher and the actual reading was 0, but it had a high beat rate error, which was quite intriguing. 0.5 is the absolute limit normally you'd want to set a beat rate to. What the beat rates actually meant is when the two lines separate from each other. And that means the difference between the tick and the tock is slightly off on one side. It's not a major thing, but it's just, I'm surprised it was quite high for what it is on a new watch. But yeah, the main thing is timekeeping, and this one should be very good at that. 25 dual movement, it's a variation of original, it would have been 2824, and then they modify it with a different escapement and so forth. And it is quite nice, really. It's a solid movement, no problems at all. We have a display case back on there, which is nice. As we come past all that, we have this bracelet. The bracelet itself, I think, is quite nice. It is also available on a blue leather strap. I think the price difference is £90 or something like that, I believe. I personally would always buy it on the bracelet, and then you've always got the option of going back to a leather strap of some sort. But I think it looks a nice bracelet. It's got all brushwork going on there, and then in the chamfered edges, you can see just that nice little bit of polishing. It just looks nice and tidy. It would be a nightmare to repolish, but yeah, it does look very tidy. As we can see, it's not screwed. It looks like it's either pin and collar or actual push pins. I'm not sure. Now, some people might complain that pin and collar isn't as good as screws. You have to remember, pin and collar will never come loose. Screws do back out sometimes. That's why companies like Zinn give you Loctite to put on them. And I've seen many back out and, people lose their watch or whatever. And if you only think that cheaper watches have pin and collar, try and get yourself a £250,000 Patek Philippe, and you'll find a lot of them are pin and collar also. Coming around here, we have a fold-over butterfly clasp. Locks in nicely. You've got the Hamilton logo on there and a twin push to release. Palladian on the inside there. Nice little touch they didn't have to do, but it's good. The method of adjustment on this is half links. So you can see you have a half link here and here. So you should be able to fit, get the right size for yourself. No problem at all. Let me put it on my wrist so you got an idea how it looks. Just zoom out. Quick wrist check. I'm wearing my Nomos Club Campus, I should say. And this time next month, give or take, I'll be reviewing the very latest colour, which is due for release that week. And Bob has an absolutely lovely Damasco DC96. Very, very good looking watch from the brand there. My wrist size, 7¼ inches, and that's it on there. That's 7¼ inches works out to 18.5 centimetres. As you can see, it looks a large watch. It doesn't overpower the wrist because lug to lug is still a respectable size for my wrist size. But it is definitely a very large dial on there. I'd be intrigued to see which one you would prefer, the 36mm or this 42mm. I would be intrigued to see which model sells better, actually. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave you to it with that, but most importantly, you all stay safe out there. Take care. Bye.